It's okay, we'll talk about it again today. Basically, many of the examples that we'll see today have this sort of element. So we will talk about this again today. I just hope that we will have enough time to do it. So we have, okay. So basically, whatever is triggering the invocation is going to be replaced by a single question mark. Okay, because what you need to do is not just to look at the mechanism, which is important, but you also have to remember why we are doing this. Okay, according to the trace, okay, in the trace, row 8 is saying we're executing line 6 in the algorithm. Line 6 of the algorithm is trying to say, what am I supposed to return? Okay, I know what is 2 times n, because n is 3 at this point. I know how to subtract 1. But I don't know the value of invoke S2 blah 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 at this point. So that's why you have to invoke S2 just to find out what is the value of that invocation. Is that right? When you invoke S2 blah 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 inside line 6, you have to set up column F and column G because that's the protocol of calling or invoking a subroutine. N is easy, it's just a parameter. The purpose of return info is to tell us where am I supposed to go back to, and when I do go back there, what else do I need to do on that line? So that means it's telling us when we return from S2, what are we supposed to do on line 6? When we return from S2, what we need to do is we will have this value already. We just have to finish up the rest of the calculation and then perform the return action. Right? And that's why we are replacing the invocation with a question mark as a placeholder for the return value of that invocation. Okay? It will be more clear when we get to the return part, then you can see, how the whole thing works. Okay, once we set up column F and column G, we go to the beginning of S2 again. And once again, it checks whether n equals to 0. And once again, the answer is no. So we go to line 6. Line 6, once again, we'll try to set up the columns like this. So I just have to pretty much copy and paste. However, n will have a different value this time because this time, okay, let me just scroll it in the right way. Because this time, column G is my current context, supplying the n in the n minus 1. 2 minus 1 is 1, and that's why I have to change column I to have a value of 1. But everything else remains exactly the same because on line 6, when we execute line 6 of the pseudocode, it is a return statement, but I can't do the return statement until I know what is the value of the invocation. And as a result, I'm invoking S2. When I invoke S2, I have to set up return info and n, and return info looks exactly the same as the last time because it is on the same line, and there's no difference in this case. Are we doing okay with this? Okay. Okay. Then we go to line 3 again after we set up column H and column I, and then this time n equals to 0 is false again. We go to line 6 again. Okay. So I'm just getting lazy. I'm just copying and pasting as much as I can and changing n this time to 0 because I'm passing n minus 1 to n. The current context of n is 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. Then we go back to line 3. But this time, line 3 will tell you n equals to 0 is true. That means we do not go to line 6 anymore. We go to line 4. Now, here comes the confusing part, or what you guys need to understand, about return statement. On line 4, are there any other invocations I have to perform before I perform the return action? No, it's just returning a constant of 0, not even a multiplication or an addition to compute. So that means this is pretty much as simple as it gets when it comes to a return statement. When you execute a return statement, there are 3 things to do, 3 steps to it. 1 is to locate the rightmost return info column. Which one is my rightmost return info column? Column J. Okay? So locate that. The second thing to do is to copy and paste that cell to the row representing the current line, the return line. The third step, which is the last step of executing a return statement, is to replace the question mark with the value that I'm returning. What value am I returning again? 0. Okay. Then I replace it with a 0. That's all. Okay. You don't do anything else. You do not simplify the 2 times n. You do not do any other calculations. You just replace the question mark with a particular value. Okay? Is that okay so far? Okay. So same 3 steps. We'll basically redo these 3 steps over and over again until you guys tell me, stop, Tech, stop, it's boring. Then I'll smile and say, okay, I think you guys are getting it. On line 8, we deallocate both of these columns because it is the end of a subroutine. At the end of any subroutine, we always deallocate whatever we allocated earlier for the invocation of that subroutine. Okay? Whether it returns a value or not does not matter. We always deallocate. So now the question is, I am out of subroutine S2. Where am I supposed to go? Isn't that the whole purpose of the return info cell? Yep. Okay? So we are supposed to go back to line 6. We're supposed to go back to line 6 because return info tells me that I'm supposed to go back to line 6. But not only am I going back to line 6 is now like this. I have just resolved the value of the invocation. Okay? Because in the original code, line 6 is invoking S2, blah, blah, blah. But that part is already done. I know the invocation of S2 returned a value of 0. So looking at cell J17, am I ready to execute the return statement itself? Yep. Okay, so let's go ahead and evaluate what we are what is the value that I'm supposed to return? I'm supposed to compute 0 plus 2 times n minus 1.
Because you use the n in column I.
Exactly. I'm using column I as my n. How come I'm not using column K? Exactly. Column K at this time is already deallocated. Okay? So let me just talk about this in some other terms. If you're thinking about this in an English sentence, this is my verb. Okay? The verb specifies what am I supposed to do. I'm supposed to return 0 plus 2 times n minus 1. What is the context? The context is column I. Column I is the n that I have to use in this case. In other words, the expression 0 plus 2 times n minus 1 evaluates to 1. Is that okay so far? And then this is my object. I'm acting on this object here. Tell me again, what are the 3 steps of executing a return statement? We find the rightmost return info column. It cannot be J because J is deallocated, so it has to be column H. Second step, copy and paste it, right? Third step is, Okay, third step is to change the question mark to the value that I'm returning. What value am I returning again? 1. I'm done. Okay? So let me just replay that sequence one more time. This is my verb. It tells me what to do. But the n refers to this n, and therefore 0 plus 2 times n minus 1, just is 1.
So
This is...
You delete the stuff right after 1, right? The 1 in parentheses? Because we calculated all of that.
When I execute this, okay, J17 is my action. It tells me what to do. But when I try to execute this, I have to evaluate what is 2 times n minus 1. So I have to figure out which n I am supposed to use. But since I'm executing this in the context of column H and column I, this n refers to column I, which has a value of 1. Okay? So effectively, I am just saying return 1 with this statement. I'm executing return 1. Is that all right?
Yeah, I understand that. I just don't understand why on line 19 you still have the plus 2 times n minus 1 on the
because that's what I'm supposed to do. When I execute this statement, which is J17, its job is, there are 3 steps. 1 is to locate the return info cell, 2, copy and paste it, and 3, change the question mark to the value that I'm returning. It just so happens, okay, it just so happens that the action that I'm supposed to perform looks kind of like the object that I'm working on. Okay, so do not let that confuse you. Okay, whatever this cell has does not matter. What happens, what matters to you when you execute a return statement is simply where is the question mark. Replace that with a return value, and you're done. Okay, so this is where it gets confusing. It's because because the action I'm performing, which is J17, looks like the object that I'm acting on, which is H12. Okay? But don't let that bother you, okay? Because your job is just to change the question mark to the value that you're returning, and then you're done. Okay? And that's why, earlier I said, you have to pay attention to the return statement itself, as well as what do you do at the end of a subroutine. So those are the 2 things that are somewhat confusing. Now this means I am all done with line 6, because line 6, the job of this line 6 is to copy and paste and change that question mark to a particular value. I'm done. That means after line 6, I can move on to line 8. Line 8 is going to deallocate the 2 columns that I allocated for this invocation. And after line 8, where am I supposed to go?
6.
Line 6, very good. Okay, so the question is, what am I going to do on line 6?
Return 4.
Return 1 plus 2 times n minus 1.
4.
Okay, so the question is, which n am I talking about? We're talking about column G, which has a value of 2. 1 plus 4 minus 1 is just 4. In other words, I am executing return 4. Okay, I'm executing a return statement. The return value is 4. What am I supposed to do when I execute a return statement? Same boring 3 steps that I mentioned already. Find the rightmost return info cell, which is this guy here. Copy and paste it. Find out where the question mark is, and change that to the value that you're returning. Okay, I'm done. Now, it just so happens that the action I'm performing looks similar to the object that I'm working on, and therefore it also resembles the result of the action. Okay? Are we doing okay? Okay. Doing better?
Better.
All right. Well, at least we're doing better before the final exam, so that's good. It's positive. Go to line 8. Once again, we deallocate these 2 columns. And then we have to figure out, where am I supposed to go back to? Well, according to this, we go back to line 6 again. What do we do when we go back to line 6? We have to compute what is 4 plus 2 times n minus 1. This n refers to column E, which has a value of 3. So we are computing 4 plus 2 times 3 minus 1, which is 9. Effectively, we are executing the statement as return 9.
I think I did the wrong math. I think I did 10%.
Oh, that's a minus 1.
Minus 1, that's fine.
Okay, so it is return 9. We are executing return 9. When we execute a return statement, what do? Same boring steps. Copy, find out what is the rightmost return info cell, copy and paste it, change the question mark to whatever value we are returning, and we are done with the return statement itself. It is important to remember, do not execute that statement after you resolve it. Okay, it's not time yet